This is From Ring to Veil, a wedding planning podcast, the PNW's complete wedding resource, with your host, Kim Mills and Shannon Palmer.
Episode number 29, all you need to know about wedding videography.
So videography is becoming more and more important as part of your wedding.
Right. And it's important also to find a good videographer.
That's right. Much like your photographer.
Right.
So in recent years, it's evolved. It's more creative. It's a movie and you put it on and you're like, wow, this is awesome.
With background music.
I know.
Like I always say, I would love to have background music for my life. Then I'll know something when something bad's going to happen.
Yeah. When you should run, when you're about to fall in love. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that would be really nice. It's no longer your uncle, your friend in the back holding this big boxy video
or even
camera.
The little video camera where they're just panning.
Oh yeah,
back
that's
and
true.
Forth, So anyway.
You can't hear anything,
It's a big production.
It is. Listen in as we give you some info on what to look for in a videographer.
Today our guest is Reid Johnson, owner of Best Made Videos. Reid is an Emmy-nominated photojournalist and has over 10 years of videography experience. Thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
We're happy that you're here. We haven't had a videographer on yet, and we're eager to learn.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think there's a lot of, even, in the last few years, I think videography is becoming more in the mainstream, but I still do think that there's a lot of questions, concerns, do I need it? Do I not? And I'm always happy to educate and kind of let people know what's out there and what they can check out. So.
Exactly. Why don't you start off by telling us your journey?
Yeah, so I went to Gonzaga for broadcast journalism. I got a degree, went and worked in TV news for a long time. I worked in California at the NBC station there, and then moved back up to Seattle and worked at a couple local stations here. I got really kind of unhappy. TV news can be really challenging and really kind of soul-crushing if just to be in it for a long time. It's a lot of negativity surrounding it, car accidents and fires and kind of everything else. Finally, about 2.5 years ago, my fiance and I went out for Valentine's Day and talked with kind of a local winemaker, and he did his own, had his own business. And I said, well, God, I'm going to do that. So I said, well, what would you think if I got my, camera and kind of figured this whole thing out? And she said, well, I think that's what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I support you. And so I bought a camera and didn't really think I was going to do wedding videography. Just thought, well, I'll get some corporate stuff, and ended up getting a call 48 hours before some bride, her friend, was going to do the video, and he dropped out, and she was just frantic. I think she found me on Craigslist. Just, I need somebody,
Right.
So I think it was Friday. I need somebody Sunday. And I said, sure. I had no idea what a first look was. I had no idea how any of that stuff worked. But I said, I've covered, news for a long time and pretty good on my feet. And it was a really cool experience. I mean, everybody was happy. And that's what I came home that night, and they said, well, how was it? I said, God, it was great. I said, everybody in news, nobody wants you to be there, right? And in weddings, for the most part, everybody's really happy, and the guests are happy to see you, and they want to be in the video, and the bride and groom obviously want you to be there. They're paying for you to be there. So I kind of steered in that direction, and 9 months later, I kind of had enough clientele that I quit working for TV, and so that was a year ago in December. So now I just work for myself, and I'm very happy, and it's a good situation.
That's great.
Great. Yeah, we find weddings are a happy time too. So we enjoy being part of that.
Time.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah. You get them when they have everything settled. I get them when they're coming to me frantic, like, help.
Yeah, help me figure this out.
Yeah, I mean, there's challenges to go into it, but I mean, just the wanting you to be there is really important, and being able to be in that day with them and kind of celebrate that with them is 180 from how it is in news.
It's hard to be depressed or upset or at a wedding. So
absolutely.
Well, that's good that you found something that is completely opposite from what you were wanting to get away from, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so let's get into the questions for our couples so they can know what a videographer does and what is videography. Do videographers have a particular style, or do they work with the style that the couple is wanting?
Wedding videography has evolved a lot in the last 20, 30 years. I think a lot of people think of like grandpa with the camcorder, in the audience. And I think that people just don't necessarily know how it's evolved in terms of the equipment and the video. And I mean, the high caliber of video that, even like my camera shoots and the other people's cameras can shoot, and the money that we put into all of it is something that I just don't know if people are aware of. But in terms of styles, it's really unlimited in terms of what people want to do. Certain videographers will take the vows, weave that throughout the the video, or they'll take the toast and weave that throughout, or people can do interviews, and you can interview either the bride and groom, which I've done, or you can interview well wishes from the guests. I tend to go for just a really cool, stylized, more of a music video kind of sense.
Okay.
And it's really just whatever the people want, right? So if you're looking for the vows type of video and you don't see that in somebody's stuff, chances are that's not their style or not, right? Or if you want the cool, stylized whatever, and you find somebody that's maybe slower paced, people have their style that they're going to do. And certainly when it comes to, certain couples and the music that they want to use, if they do have a preference of that, which some couples do and they don't, that can really kind of drive what they want in terms of, like, if they're working with me, for example, if they want to pick the song and we kind of work together in that. But you really are hiring somebody for their creative eye, right? And I think that video is really subjective, right? That not everybody's going to like the same thing, and people have the type of video they're going to like or they're not going to like. And so if you really need to find somebody that's going to do it in the style that you want. Certainly if couples have preferences of music or things like that, I will work with them. It's their video and it's their day, and I really want them to be happy. But if you don't like the 40 different videos you see on the site, chances are you're not going to like your wedding video.
Right.
And, I try to be really open and upfront and honest with people that you got to find somebody that you like, right? And so you can only customize so much that my style, it's the same way if you found a photographer, right? I mean, you're not going to tell a photographer, I really don't like how you, frame your shot, or, ooh, your contrast is kind of weird. But yet with video, people will come in and say, well, now how can we really construct this together? And you can't sit down with every couple, or at least I can't, and work it, start to finish, right? I mean, you can give me some direction and you can help pick the music if you want, but ultimately you're hiring whoever you're hiring, whether it's a florist or a video or photo, for their own professional style and expertise.
Right. I mean, that's one thing we try to stress through all of these conversations with vendors, is that our couples need to feel comfortable and mesh well with their vendors, because it'll make the process better.
Absolutely. Yeah. I want there to be no surprise when, you get your wedding video, and I want you to be super excited with it. And so for the most part, the brides and grooms that, get my style and my direction are really pumped with the videos that they see. And they may not be the standard type of wedding video, and everybody's different, but the feedback I get from the couples that choose me, I'm very honored and, excited about that. And it's hard when you're an artist that people may or may not get what you're trying to do. And so you want people that are excited to work with you. And I want couples that vibe with me and get what we're trying to do. And you're not going to get everybody. And that's really kind of, hard as an artist to kind of understand that. But you also want people to be really excited. So
I think it's a good point that you make, that you are artists. So you have your own styles. Each and every one of you are going to be different. So a couple might have to look through tons of videos to find something that really speaks to them, and then maybe seek out that videographer instead of trying to make a videographer do what somebody else has done.
Exactly. Yeah. When you click on my site, my tagline is, tired of boring wedding videos, right? And so when you start watching my videos, it's a very definite style, and people may like that or they may not, and then you move on. But I want you to know right away, who I am and what I represent, and other people have different styles, and it's your day, and you just want to make sure that you find somebody's style that you're really comfortable with, because you don't want to have any surprises on the back end.
Yeah, that makes it much clearer. So in a typical wedding video, what all's included in the video?
when you hire me, all of my video packages offer two options. You get your short version and then you get your long version. And I find that for the most part, most videographers in some way do both of those things, right? So in my long version, I say it on the website, that's literally everything in your day. So depending on when you pay us to show up, we can do the getting ready in the room, trying the dress on, getting you and your shoes and the rings and all that stuff, all the way through the ceremony, all the way through the reception and the toast. So basically I tell people that it's your day start to finish. I then offer a shorter version that is really kind of pared down. We take out the ceremony, we take out the toast. Generally mine are like 5 to 8 minutes. Some people do teaser videos as an additional thing. I don't necessarily offer that because I get you your wedding video so quick, where I think a lot of videographers offer a teaser or a trailer to kind of prolong how long they have to edit the video.
Okay.
But I always tell couples, I'm going to get you your video and we can talk about turnaround and things like that, but I'm going to get you your video in a week. And so I would just give you your full version, right, than necessarily giving you a teaser or a trailer. Because I do have couples that ask that, oh, well, how do you do teasers and how do you do trailers? And I said, well, it's going to be a week and you'll have your video. So,
wow, trailers for a wedding video. That's kind of, blow my mind here. Because, it used to be only movies. Now you got trailer for books and now weddings. So that's really, it's a good point to make that those trailers and teasers take time, which is taking away from your actual video, full video. So that's a good tip to keep in mind, I think.
Absolutely. But you can only have as many things in your video as you guys actually do, right? So if you don't do a first look, that's part of the video out. Or if you, for whatever reason, don't do that many pictures, or you don't necessarily want to pay your videographer to come early, you lose elements of that, right? So I price to come for your entire day. That's not for all couples. I completely understand that. And some couples don't want that. They only want the ceremony and they want the reception. Some couples want you there all day. So I try to offer flexible pricing in that way so that you can get me for 12 hours or 6 hours.
You're talking about pricing. You said 12 hours or 6 hours. What is the average price of, say, that 12-hour video or a 6-hour video per se?
Yeah, so I would say, obviously you can get, the Craigslist videographers. I see a lot of starting at $500, which you have to start somewhere and you have to build a portfolio, right? I would be hesitant against that. It just, if you're going to go that route, I would really want to sit down and talk with them and figure it out. And then if it is somebody that's building a portfolio, I had to build a portfolio. A lot of people do. And so, you have to start somewhere, and that's no deterrent against any of that. I would just really do your, due diligence to see, what kind of experience they have. Have they done weddings before? What kind of equipment do they have? Do they have their own equipment? Are they insured? Is the equipment insured? Do they have backups in case they are sick or the camera breaks or the memory card gets erased? It's a lot of stuff that you learn through the years, right? And I've been shooting video for 10 years now, and I'm still learning things, every day you're learning things, and whether it's learning through video or, media management or whatever. But in terms of pricing, I think for the most part, it's anywhere in I would say $1,500 to $4,000 range. Okay. I tend to price more inexpensive. I say I price competitively. Most of my packages are around $2,000. I really like to do weddings and I really like to work. And so I would rather price at a rate that couples feel like they can add on to their wedding, because I think videography is still a, not even the secondary, but a third or fourth or fifth option for people, right? And where maybe you book your venue a year out or a year and a half, and your photographer a year out. I'm booking right now for August, but I'm also booking for this May. People really book. They go, oh, I have an extra $2,000 in the budget. I'm going to add a videographer. So, in my experience, I can't price the way that photographers do. And, whether that's however you want to look at that or not, I price so that I can be an addition to the photographer and so that you can get a complete video and photo package. Yeah.
How do videographers and photographers work? Do they coordinate at all or work together at all?
It really is a dance throughout the day of making sure that both people get along, right? And I've heard horror stories of, photographers getting in the way of videographers and vice versa. As a videographer, I really have to be conscious of the photographer first and foremost, because generally speaking, they are the primary vendor that the couple books. The photographers also just need to understand that, I have a job to do as well.
Exactly.
And I will do my best. I do my best to stay out of their way. But, at the end of the day, I need to do, my work too, right? We're both being paid to be there, and we both have a job to do. And for the most part, photographers get it now. They don't necessarily have a videographer that they work with at every wedding, but they've worked with them enough so that they're aware of that. I do find that a lot of the photographers I work with have had negative experiences with videographers in the past. And I really do my best to counteract that and be really flexible and work with them. And I do, a lot of my referrals are from photographers that have worked with me
I was going to ask. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have photographers that refer you specifically to work with them?
Absolutely, because like I said, there are the $500 Craigslist.
Yes.
We're getting married this summer, and the woman that's helping coordinate our wedding at our venue knows I'm a videographer, and she always tells me these stories about like, oh well, we were sitting there during the ceremony and they start wheeling this tripod down the aisle, and because people don't get it, right? And you get too wrapped up with getting your own shots, and you forget that you are there taking part in something else, right?
Yes.
That it is not
Your
There's a bigger
movie,
picture.
right?
yeah, you are not the primary focus of the day,
Yeah.
right? It is the couple. And, I know that's one of your guys' questions is,
So how do you stay unobtrusive? I mean, how do you blend in?
It's a great question because, you are there with the tripod and the camera, and, the best way you can do it is just to, be aware of the situation, right? That don't roll the tripod down the aisle or, don't walk right behind the bride and groom as they're getting ready to do, the kiss or the rings or whatever. You really need to be aware of your surroundings. I mean, most video cameras have zoom lenses. We can be in the back. I tend to be in the back of the room, shooting down the aisle, getting a clean shot, staying out of the way, right? But when it comes to getting ready in the hotel room, you're going to be around and you're going to be there when the bride's getting her dress on or when the groomsmen are getting the ties on. And it's about also kind of getting a good rapport with the bride and groom so that they feel comfortable with you, that just like the photographer, you are a guest. And I always find it interesting that couples will spend a lot of time getting to know their photographers, right? They book them and they do the engagement session and they do maybe a couple sit down meetings. Not all my couples want to meet before the wedding day, which it's up to you, and it's how you want to do your wedding planning. I always make myself available because your videographer is going to be there the whole day with you, just like your photographer.
Right.
And that's not something that I really do think that couples don't understand, right? That your photographer is there in the room while you're getting ready, and so am I. And so in the same rapport that you have with them, you want to make sure you have with your videographer.
Yeah.
And so, I try to schedule Skype meetings at the minimum, just at least we can get a face-to-face and talk. But some couples do it over the phone, some do it in person. Everybody's different, but you do however you want to do it, you do want to make sure you have a rapport with your videographer because they are there for the long haul as well.
Great recommendation, I think. So for our couples listening, make sure you meet with your videographer at least once, maybe twice.
You want to feel comfortable with them, especially if they're getting ready in the room or anything like that.
In that same regard, I have a lot of couples where at the end of the day, when I get ready to leave, it's like, we've been through something together, right? The same way with your photographer, that it's like you've been through war together, whatever. So I think a lot of couples, in retrospect, are like, oh man, we're really glad that he was a cool guy, right?
Yeah.
But you want to make sure that you set yourself up for success in that way, because you really are going to be hand in hand through the whole process.
Right.
That's true. In photography, we know it's highly recommended that they have a second shooter. Is it the same way in videography?
That's a great question. I do most all my wedding videography solo shooting, simply because I want to be able to offer my prices at a reasonable cost, and that's the best way to do it for me. I get a lot of I get a lot of questions from couples about that, and they go, well, is there one or two of you? I try to price so that I can do the wedding video solo. I have an assistant that helps me out. I have a secondary shooter that I book, and he has an assistant as well, because I do think that you need to have two sets of hands.
Is that an add-on?
I would say if you're looking and trying to figure out if you need one or two videographers for your wedding day, I would look at your videographer's work. Everything on my site has been shot by one videographer, whether it's me or my secondary shooter. So when you are looking at pricing and looking at options and you go, well, I really like these videos and he only needs one person, well, then there you go, right? So I don't need two people. Another videographer might feel comfortable with two videographers.
Right.
And if you look at their portfolio and you go, oh, I really like this, and they have two, I think you just need to go with whatever the company is comfortable with.
Right, but they should realize that it's going to be more expensive than just a single shooter.
Yeah, so, I'll book a secondary if the couple wants it, and that's just an additional hourly cost.
Yeah.
But what I would say is, whatever way you go about it, if you like the business and you like their portfolio and that's the way they do it, I wouldn't question that, right? So if you like everything that I've done with one videographer, it's not worth paying that, right? But, more is not always better.
Right.
And if you're going to have, your photographer in the secondary and then, me and my assistant and the secondary, that's a lot of people, right?
And that's a lot of experience.
I feel comfortable with myself and the people that I hire covering the wedding by themselves because I had that experience. I worked in news forever. I'm used to capturing everything nonstop during the day, right? You don't have a chance to miss anything when you work in news or in weddings. You want to make sure that you can't miss the first look or, the first kiss. But if the company you like has two people, then that's great. If they have three people, that's awesome. It's whatever works for you with your budget and the company that you want to work with.
Right.
That's
so
great.
trust your videographer's experience.
Absolutely.
Basically.
You said it takes you about a week to get the finished video. What would you say the normal length of time it is to get a finished video to the couple?
Yeah, it's my goal to get you your wedding video by your honeymoon. I think it's a really cool thing for couples to be able to watch their video on their honeymoon.
Oh,
and
wow.
that's what I try to, and for the most part, I do get to my couples. I think 4 to 6 weeks 4 to 8 weeks is pretty standard, I think, for video. I know, some people take 40 hours per wedding video edit, 50 hours. I don't know. I worked in news for a long time where you
So
would
you had to do it right.
You'd have a 10-minute turnaround, right? I think I would say 1 to 2 months out. I know some videographers have a year or less policy, which I think that's challenging. I think you're really excited when you get married, and I think you want to.
Yeah.
And I think it would kind of lose its excitement for the videographer to edit that as well. Plus, the bride and groom to see it afterwards. And so I think that's extremely too long of a time.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. So
normally 4 to 6 weeks.
I would say 4 to 8 weeks.
4 to 8 weeks.
Probably
2 months. Okay.
But if you can find somebody that says, I'll give it to you in a week, that's awesome, right?
Yeah, right.
And you love their stuff.
Yeah.
I think 4 to 8 weeks is pretty standard. I think that depending on what time of year you're getting married as well, I think photographers obviously have that too. If it's the middle of August and it's peak season, or if you're getting married at the tail end. But I would say 4 to 8 weeks is pretty standard to get your video back.
And plus, if you're doing 3 weddings a weekend, that's also going to make your time a little bit longer too. Okay, you mentioned, and I hate to keep going back to the Craigslist people, but you mentioned something about equipment. So when a bride and groom, are talking to a videographer and they're asking them about their equipment, what's the kind of things they need to hear?
The nice thing about doing video is when people look at your portfolio, they get a good sense of the quality of the work that you do, in terms of, one, the editing and everything, but two, just the actual video quality, right? I mean, I look at videographers' websites all the time, and I see things that look like they were shot in 1980.
Yes.
So, I don't get asked too much about, what brand of camera do you shoot with, or what type of anything do you have? Couples see the work and they see the quality of it, and try to be a perfectionist when it comes to the video that we put in, but I would say just make sure that your videographer is comfortable with their equipment. I get, like I said, the Craigslist videographer that maybe has only done it once or twice before and they don't, know all the ins and outs of everything. I mean, I've shot on my camera for 3 years. I upgraded a lot of things in this off season so that I can be comfortable and ready to go by May, June, July. You don't want somebody that's learning on the fly, right? So I think couples will ask, do you have, backup equipment? The big question I get asked is about audio for the ceremony. A lot of couples want to know about that. I think if anything in terms of equipment to talk about, couples want to know, how are you going to get clean audio from them for their ceremony, which is is only a videographer concern, right? The photographer, that's no concern to them at all. And so as a videographer, that's something extra that we have to worry about and handle, right? And that is a major concern, that if you have your vows and you cannot hear your vows or, the microphone cuts out or there is no microphone, that is a big deal, right? And so I would ask videographers how they plan on doing that. I've had discussions with clients where they say, oh, well, I was talking to another videographer and they said that wasn't possible. Well, it is possible. And it's okay. And I do think you need to educate yourself about that, right? So, I use small wireless mics. I put one on the groom. I put one on the officiant because you want to make sure that you have a redundancy, right? That you want to make sure that you have a couple different options up there if things go wrong. Because if it's the middle of the ceremony and you have one mic and it cuts out, it's really hard. You can't interrupt the ceremony, right?
Yeah, I'll be like, excuse me.
Yeah, so, but I would ask your videographer about that. I also work with the DJ, right? So if the DJ is providing audio, I would also take a feed in from them.
Nice.
So at that point, you would have 3 feeds going on, but I would not solely rely on the DJ, nor would I solely rely on one microphone up there, right? So I think if you're a client and you're talking to your videographer, I would say that that's kind of a major concern you need to look at is how they're going to capture the audio. In terms of everything else, do they own the equipment? I think that would be nice. If they're borrowing, maybe it's not available on your day or maybe something happens. I would just make sure that they have equipment that they own or at least feel comfortable with and that they have some plan for audio. In terms of lighting, I don't use a ton of lighting. I know that that's an option for videographers. Going back to the being unobtrusive, I don't like to use a lot of lights. I think that does get distracting and get in the way. If your ceremony is really dark, I might use a small top light, which just attaches to the top of the camera, just for maybe the toast so we can see the person or, maybe a little bit on the first dance. But again, my role is to be as unobtrusive as possible, and setting up LED lights all over the room is not the best way to do that. It's one thing for a photographer to put, an off-camera flash somewhere in the corner for a couple seconds. But you don't want a videographer blaring a light at you for your whole reception.
Yeah. So that's where you would make sure that your camera is good enough to get the photo or the video that you need in lower light.
Absolutely. And that's something that is a challenge constantly for videographers, right? Is getting good quality in low light. I spend hours in post-production making sure that everything is crisp and clear, and a lot of that has to do with denoising and cleaning up the footage. But yeah, you need to make sure that you have a camera that can handle that, right? And I spend a lot of money to make sure that my equipment can handle that.
Yeah, well, I think that's important for a videographer. And again, going back to what you have on your website, your samples, your work, you can see that a videographer is going to try really hard, especially when you look at the quality of what they put out.
Just like a photographer, right? A photographer has different bodies and different lenses, and the videographer will have that. And I would just make sure that your videographer has a portfolio that shows that if you're getting married, inside somewhere, that you see that they can handle that, or if you're getting married, it's good to see a wide variety of examples from somebody to make sure that they can handle all different situations. And obviously, ask them if they've shot in your venue. I've shot in a lot of venues now, and it's good as well. It's not a necessity, but I certainly think it's really cool to say, I've booked weddings just on that, where I see where they're getting married, and I send them the example, and they go, wow, it's so cool that, that's going to be my day. And it's really exciting for people to see that. And, is it necessary? No, but it's certainly a added benefit that you can say, oh, wow, they have done it there, and this looks great. And, I'm excited to do that.
Yeah, Because I think a lot of people ask us if we've worked in certain venues too. So it's just an added bonus.
Yeah, it's an added bonus. It's not a necessity, but it is a really cool extra.
So after the edit, what is the ordering process for the couple?
So I do primarily all of my video delivery electronically. I give them private online links to view, post, share with family and friends. Most videographers offer either DVD or Blu-ray options for their video packages, which is really nice. I think you can get a really nice customized, artwork of your day on the DVD cover, a nice presentation on the DVD. And I think that's really cool. I think the way the industry is trending in terms of 4K video now becoming a standard, which is basically a step up from the HD video that most people are comfortable and aware of. I do think that DVDs and Blu-rays are kind of going to get phased out in years to come. I think making sure you have a good electronic file of that is really important. But yeah, I think for the most part, your videographer will give you a set number of DVDs with each package. I see a lot of 3 DVDs and or Blu-rays included. You can purchase additional ones for $10 a piece, $15 a piece. And everyone's going to be different in that way. But for the most part, you're going to get a couple, and then you're more than welcome to buy more.
I know. I can't remember the last time I looked at a DVD or watched a DVD or a Blu-ray.
Well, we do Redbox sometimes, but but for home videos,
stream, so
But I think it's a really good question to ask, because a lot of my clients that ask about DVDs have either parents, grandparents, relatives that can't get online and watch that, right? My grandpa lives in Oregon, doesn't have internet. So I'm going to have to, give him a DVD of our wedding so he can watch that, And that's a concern nowadays where, I think we live in, an area where we're blessed with nice technology and internet and whatever. But I do think DVDs and Blu-rays are a great way for people that maybe don't have the access to high-speed internet to kind of enjoy all that. But I do think the way the industry is trending, I think that
it's more towards streaming type things, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to tell our couples?
So the biggest thing we haven't talked about yet is music and music licensing for the videos, right? So the way that myself and most videographers handle it is we independently license out music per couple, per video with an artist through a music licensing site, right? I see a lot of videographers that have examples up that maybe have Bruno Mars or, Jason Mraz. They don't own the rights to that music, and they are not allowed to do that. And if you're a couple that is sharing that online, eventually that might come back and get somebody in trouble, and it's big trouble.
Yeah.
So it is hard with couples where they see things like that to educate them on kind of the right way to do it and the way that most people do it. Every time I meet with a couple, I try to walk them through that process, right? Some couples are very concerned with the music that plays during their wedding video, and some couples want me to handle that. Either way is fine. I know some videographers welcome couples to choose all that, and I know that some videographers do not. The music is probably the most important aspect of the video, in my opinion, because it dictates the entire pace, feeling, tone, everything of the video, right? I welcome couples to sit with me and look through the site. They can look through the sites on their own and find music that we can license legally and use in your video. That's a cost to me. That's not a cost.
So do you transfer it over to your cost for the couple?
Yeah, so it's just included, right? So that's just part of the cost of doing business. But it is, each song is licensed for each couple, for each video. And that is the legal way to do it.
There you go, legal. That's important, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I've lost clients that don't want that, right? That I've had couples that go, well, I want Shania Twain in my music or in my wedding video, and I can't do that. And I will, try to explain to them that you might find somebody that will do that, but I think that somebody that might do that will speak negatively about maybe other aspects, that if they're willing to compromise on that, then you maybe have to question their experience or how long they've been doing it or what they what they know. But
maybe their ethics even,
that's one thing I didn't even think about.
Yeah.
Was the licensing of the music of the videos. Because, hey, every life needs background music.
Exactly. Especially your wedding.
I would love to have background music so I know what's happening to myself during the day. But anyway.
But that's very important, though, I think. Because, again, like she said, we didn't even think about that. But how would a couple know that you have to get rights to this? I know that even in books, they have to get rights to list lyrics. So, I mean, it's very sticky situation. Can get really expensive if you get in trouble.
Yeah.
It's a huge issue. And the more people that don't go the legal route, the harder it is for the people that do.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But it's a huge issue, and a lot of couples, that is their first question to me is, how do we do the music for the video? A lot of people want to know that, and so I think it's the best question, one of the best questions to ask, and I do think that couples need to know that they're going to go with somebody that's going to go about it the right way.
Right.
There you go. Well, anything else that you think they might need to know?
I think a lot of couples that are on the fence about videography, I always encourage them, whether they go with me or anybody else. I do think that wedding videos is one of the most important things that a couple can get for the day, that you spend so much time and energy on every aspect of your day. And I think that having, obviously wedding photography is essential as well, and having those moments. But I think that having something that's 5, 6, 8 minutes that can show all of the hard work, all of the energy, all of the kind of the love and emotion and everything in just this, nice little package, I think is a really cool experience for people. The way I tell couples is, wedding photography is essential, but the wedding video is kind of the moments between the photos. And it's all those, the little things, the laughing in the hotel room getting ready, or, the husband, nervous energy before the bride walks down the aisle. I mean, it's all these kind of intangibles that, obviously photography will capture, in their way as well. But you spend so much time and money on everything else. I think it's really cool to have a video that can show all of that.
Like you said, you can capture the love and the emotion in a video that you probably can't get as much of in a photo.
And, I find that when I go to a lot of, wedding shows and talk with a lot of couples, a lot of the time, the people that are pushing for the couple to get a video is either their parents that didn't get a video and they regret it, or they got a video and they realize how important it is. That I get a lot of brides that, blast past my booth and their parents are coming back and they're grabbing the flyer because they know, right?
Yeah,
and I've had plenty of friends that got married before I got started doing wedding videos, and they go, oh, why couldn't you have done this 3 years ago? We so regret that we didn't get that. And there's an article that I share a lot with couples that I just saw recently, that they surveyed 1,100 brides, recently married brides, and they said, what is your biggest regret from your wedding? 79% was didn't get a wedding video.
Oh.
And I try to express that with couples, but I do see that if budgets get tight, video is the first thing that gets cut. And I've had a lot, even just this season, I've gone back and forth with brides. We either set up meetings or don't. And it just wasn't in the budget. And, it hurts my heart because I understand budgets are tight and it's really hard for couples. But, if there's any room in there to get that, you can't recreate that when it's gone.
Right, exactly. You can't. Where pictures, you can do another recreation, sort of, and it might not be exactly the same, but a video you sure can't you can't recreate that.
And just it's just the moments. It's it's the father-daughter dance, and it's the walking down the aisle. And I get a lot of couples that think, oh, we're just going to have somebody record it on their phone, or we're just going to have and there's companies that do that too, right? That you can rent a bunch of little flip cameras and record that. When you're at your wedding, you want your guests to have fun. You don't want to worry, is Uncle Joe going to get me coming down the aisle?
Right.
You want everybody to be, experiencing the moment and know that you have a professional that's in the back that's going to capture that for you and that's going to do a good job, that you don't want to have to wonder, I hope somebody's going to get my entrance, or I hope that somebody's going to get,
the groom's face when I walk down the aisle.
that one of my good friends, like I said, got married before I started video, and he tells me all the time, he goes, I would do anything to have 30 seconds of my first dance with my wife because we were relying on friends, with cell phones, and nobody got it.
Right.
Nobody got it, or maybe you get a blurry, cell phone pic. But he says, I would do anything to have that. And it just, I think a lot of couples that, maybe cut video end up having that regret later on.
Yeah.
Reid, can you tell us where our listeners can find you?
So they can find me online at bestmadevideos.com or bestmadeweddingvideos.com. Yeah, we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of the gamut. I'm always posting stuff, always, behind the scenes, and I always get really excited to, post new wedding videos, and, that's kind of the excitement of handing it off to a client, and then I always get to track how many people view it through my site. And it's so cool to see, the view counts go up and up and up. And I know that that's, their friends and family and parents and
or
whatnot.
Themselves watching it over and over again.
I get that where couples go, oh, we got it. I'll be waiting to get feedback from them. And they go, oh, sorry, we've just been watching it for the last 2 days. We haven't had a chance to send it back. So,
yeah. Well, this was very eye-opening. Thank you so much
for joining us
Thanks.
today.
Yeah, it was a blast.
All right. So now we know what a videographer can do for you and how important it is to find the right one.
Much like your photographer, a great videographer can give you something that you can cherish for many, many years to come.
Yeah, when you're feeling nostalgic, you can open up your computer screen. Because we all know we don't have DVRs anymore. Yeah. Open up the video and just look and reminisce. It would be a good thing to do on your anniversaries, I guess. So...
We probably should do that too. Actually, we should probably get it off of video and put it onto DVD at least or something.
I don't even have one.
So, and like Reid mentioned, film gives you a different level of emotion. Something, because yes, you can get emotions in photos, but video just gives you another level.
It gives you all that little in-between things, like you said. When you're planning your wedding, please make sure to include videography in the budget and make it a priority.
Show us some love by subscribing to From Ring to Veil on iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, and please leave us a review.
This is the only way couples will be able to find us.
So until next time, no stress, no worries, keep calm, and listen on.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. You can find us on Facebook, From Ring to Veil, on Twitter, @From Ring to Veil, and on our website, FromRingToVeil.com.